Hi, my name's Alan, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. Maybe hit the subscribe button. About 80% of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel, so be a part of the Cool Kids Club and hit the subscribe button. Today I was supposed to speak at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and talk about my experience, strength, and hope. And we got rained out, and it's kind of raining now, but that's fine. We're gonna roll with it. I spoke on a panel last night to a group of people about recovery and how I use it to design my life it's a design for living, basically. So instead of doing the meeting tonight, I'm just gonna do a video on why I stay sober. So there was many years that I was just lost and didn't fit in anywhere, didn't feel like I belonged anywhere, and except for sort of the party scene, all the misfits, I guess you would say, or so to speak. And you know, it was fun for a really long time until it wasn't, and somewhere the invisible line was crossed over from doing it like recreational at concerts and events and parties and things like that to it being like a complete lifestyle. Like everything that I did end up turning into or revolving around drugs or alcohol. You know, even food, sleep, who I hung out with, who I was had social relationships with, friends, family, holidays, everything revolved around a drink or drugs. So I continued that life for many years, and I ended up becoming pretty miserable because, you know, drugs and alcohol stopped working for me at some point, but I didn't know. You know, by that time it was kind of too late. So for many years I did it for all the wrong reasons and sort of trapped in that lifestyle, and until you know, some people came in and saved my life, and they're also known as narcotics detectives. So you know, I guess I sort of prayed for a way out. I didn't know how what that looked like or how it was going to come, but God had a much bigger plan. So that sort of started my journey in living a sober life, and then about a year later I got into actually I did a year in jail and then got furloughed to a halfway house, and that's where my life really changed, because they told me to get a sponsor and go to meetings and, you know, be on time for curfew and my chores and things like that. So started creating, you know, people came in and helped me learn to live a new way of life, so to speak. But I've been around the rooms of recovery for 7+ years, and a lot of people, you know, don't get it. And you know, I don't know why, or maybe they're just not ready. I had to tap out. I was done completely. And what I realized was, whenever I started working the program of recovery and working with the sponsor and addressing some of these issues of my life, a lot of trauma and suppressed emotions and things like that I had created as well. You know, I can't just blame everyone for all this trauma that I got put through. Like, I carried that through my life and other people's lives as well. So I had to take a look at some of that stuff too. And when I started taking a look at it with my sponsor, I suddenly found myself standing on the right battlefield, fighting the right enemy, and something changed. You know, I could keep my footing. You know, I didn't keep losing ground on the battlefield, so to speak, because I had wanted to get sober many times. I had, you know, tried different substances to get off certain things, and all this big giant you know, grand thinking of mine without any tools, without any knowledge about myself. And all knowledge is knowledge of self. So I carry that with me all the time. But why I stayed sober, why I continued to live a life without drugs or alcohol or anything mood or mind altering, for that matter, is because of the liberation that I got from doing the self-work and self-healing and my relationship with God. And I know that can be a tough word for a lot of people, but I'm talking about like my and your own conception. Even in church or synagogues or wherever we go, yoga, it doesn't matter. Like even though we go to these places and congregate, everyone has their own relationship still, even in those places. So, if you're thinking about going there, if you're scared to go there or anything, just take your understanding or your conception there. It's all a personal relationship anyways. So I started building that, what I thought God looked like. I wrote down on a piece of paper what I thought he was and what I thought he wasn't, or what God was and what God wasn't. And what God was to me was like a lot of things, understanding, peaceful, a friend, and like the list goes on. And on the things that he wasn't was, mean, or not understanding, or revengeful, and all of these other things, like, and try to start building this conception. But my life immediately started getting better, and I started to learn about addiction, which I kind of only knew anger and oblivion before that, when at the end when it got really bad. And I started becoming liberated from those ideas. I started creating new memories, and I started learning new words and applying them to my feelings. And I started learning about my sex, social, and security instincts. I started learning about how fear affected my decision-making process. Throughout my life, I could look back and spot it fairly easy. So once I started seeing the patterns of how those things were affecting my decision-making, then I started understanding why I couldn't get sober or stay sober, or why I leaned on the idea of mood or mind-altering substances so much, because it really didn't matter what it was, as long as it changed the way I feel or felt at the time. And when I got sober, and about a year or two, I think, of working the program and keeping in touch with my sponsor and doing a lot of spiritual maintenance, and I started to finally feel like I wasn't walking around on eggshells, wondering if I was going to get high or drunk. And I started feeling a sense of peace and comfort. And the whole time there had been some really, really good people around me. There's been thousands and thousands and thousands of people that have helped me get to this seat that I'm sitting in talking to you all. So it's a much, much bigger plan and design than we could ever come up with. And thank God for it, that I don't have to play God today and fix everything and fix everyone and all of that jazz, because I used to try to do all that, and it made my life unmanageable very quickly. Unmanageable spiritually, mentally, socially, all of that. It all affected me, and I just couldn't keep up. And finally I hit bottom. I stopped digging my bottom out, and something changed, and I just really kind of went with the flow of the recovery thing, and started looking at resentments and resentment in my life, and anger. Anger comes from not understanding. So anytime I hear that word, I don't say it too much anymore, because I'm not an angry person. But I remember whenever I was first transitioning or getting into this or applying some of these tools to my life, I would see anger pop up, and I would think, oh, well, what don't I understand about the situation? And what that really means is, what don't I know about myself? How I react, what my ambitions and motives are, what instincts are being affected, sex, social, and security, those things, because subcategorized underneath those things are like your ambitions and your motives and fear and being selfish and self-seeking, inconsiderate, dishonest. You know, there's a whole laundry list of the spot check inventory that I can do. So I started, you know, the opposite of anger is I guess understanding or peace that passes all understanding, to where I sort of just surrendered to it all, surrendered to the big great design that I thought I had, and surrendered to something much bigger than myself. And celebrated 4 years again in August. I drank non-alcoholic beer about 4 years ago and ended up changing my sobriety date. At that point I had 4.5 years sober. On a business trip and end up, you know, humbling myself, sort of suggested by my sponsor and some other people in recovery that I had put alcohol in my body, and that I needed to be true to myself. So that's what I did, and all of a sudden I was even, you know, more free, I was liberated from even being stuck in sobriety 4.5 years sober, because I started surrendering to the process and really, you know, battling the ego. The ego isn't a good or bad thing. It's just a vehicle that we have to constantly work through. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. You know, we constantly gotta take a look at ourselves, and it's so easy to take a look at other people and use the way, you know, the world acts, the government acts, our friends act, our family acts. All of these things, you know, we will use to co-sign our own stuff, our own actions, our own thought process, our own communication or lack thereof, the things we say and do. So I surrendered all of that for the most part. I mean, it pops up on me. But through recovery, by working these steps and taking a look at some of this stuff, I started to recover from a hopeless state of mind and body, and that's why I stuck with it. Somewhere along the lines, I was doing it. You know, the courts told me I needed to do it, and all these people told me I needed to do it. So I did it because I played every card. I didn't have another card to play, and I was out of good ideas and bad ideas. Finally, thank God. So I just started doing the things the court and other people suggested, and my life started to change super fast and very drastically. And pretty soon, like, all the old memories that kept me down were soon replaced with new memories of fun and laughter. And, you know, I didn't look anyone in the eye, not for real, for many years. And I remember, like, looking people in the eye for the first time in probably 10 years, you know. So those memories soon replaced old memories for me. And every day got easier and better. And I started to feel, you know, peace and happiness and joy and freedom from that old life. It doesn't even seem like, you know, I live that life anymore. I don't forget it, the feelings that I felt and that I didn't have words for at the time, you know. But now I do have words for them, and, you know, I cherish all of those feelings and emotions and that old life, because it got me to where I am today. But I just opt out of the mood and mind altering substances. You know, today I'm not using them to fix myself anymore, or to find balance, or to find peace. You know, I always did those things to find peace or to find balance, but what it really created was a roller coaster, like a roller coaster of emotions. I would constantly have to sort of play doctor on myself, I needed this for this and this for this and all of these different things, trying to manage the way I felt. And what it did, it created chaos. I became chaotic, self-medicating and things like that. And I don't have to do that today. The world is a roller coaster anyways. Like, I don't have to jump on it. I don't even have to stand back and watch people ride it. Like, I can just, live in my own little peaceful world and be of service and help people that truly need the help. Like, there's a lot of people I know that need the help and that want the help, but I have to show the sort of compassion that God has for them. And that brings in being at peace and not being so distracted by what they're doing, or allowing myself distracting myself from my peace to try and go help people that don't want the help. I want to help people that are doing the deal and that are helping other people, and sort of lift everyone up at the same time. Otherwise, I'll just be spinning wheels. I've tried to help family before, I've tried to help friends before, I've went to a lot of funerals in recovery, and some people just don't want it. They might need it and they might want it, but they don't do it. I guess that's how I should say that. And recovery isn't for everyone. It's not for people who want it or need it. It's for people who do it. So I learned that pretty early in my recovery stages. So it helped me pick and choose where to put my energy into, and also, like, I had to be mindful of the energy exchange. Like, if the very first thing I know is like a red flag or key indicator that just because I'm doing service work might not mean it's the right service work. The very first key indicator is if something doesn't, if things start to get stressful, or I start to get angry, or I'm not at peace with it, then chances are I'm not supposed to be doing that. Like, it's more of my idea than God's plan or what I'm supposed to be doing. It's probably something that I didn't think through or pray on or meditate on, or put enough of the good energy work into it to see, is this the right thing to do? So whenever I started learning in my fourth and fifth step, we started to take a look at resentment, and the resentment that you have, some of the towards people and towards certain situations. And in the fifth step, they talk about your part in it. And that's where I really learned what selfish, self-centered, and self-seeking behavior looks like. And it's always a pattern. It always starts out in selfish, self-seeking, self-centered ideas or behavior, and which aren't always a super bad thing. Like, some of them are for survival, for example, to eat. But when they start crossing over into being inconsiderate to others, I know that I'm in trouble at that point, and chances are I'm getting ready to hurt some people or say some things that I don't want to say, or do some I don't even want to do them, but I'll do them. And that leads into being dishonest. And that's what I mean by saying things that I don't want to say, that I shouldn't say, that I regret saying later. It's always that pattern. It's like the sequence of events. If I'm being inconsiderate, or if I'm being selfish and self-seeking and self-centered for too long about a certain subject that's probably Alan's thinking and not the big design, that I will very quickly get inconsiderate, even typing out on Facebook, arguing with people that I have no idea even who they are, because I want to be right. That's very inconsiderate of me. and it soon leads into dishonesty. I'll start saying some things to some people that I shouldn't. So I'm glad to know what's wrong with me today, and I'm glad to find peace in it all, because before, when I didn't have these tools, I just thought I was a drug addict, and that turns out that wasn't the case. Like, it was on a superficial level, but there was a lot of other stuff going on there that I didn't know, but that was the best I had. Like, I can't quit doing drugs, I'm addicted to drugs, or I'm an alcoholic, and that's a very superficial term. Like, yeah, I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous, I still announce myself as an alcoholic, but today I know there's a lot more to that, and I'm very grateful for the whole process. And if any of this made sense, or you have any questions, or you're struggling, whatever that looks like, feel free to drop a comment. My sobriety date's August 6, 2016. I have a sponsor named Dave E, and I have a home group here in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's on Wednesdays at 7:30. It's called the Young Peoples of Alcoholics Anonymous, and those things keep me connected. So if you don't have a sponsor, you don't have a home group, you're not in AA, maybe look into it. You can Google this stuff and find local AA meetings in your area, or NA if that's your thing. Drugs were my thing as well, but AA works for me, and through good sponsorship, I started seeing how alcohol affected me as well. Even though I wasn't a drunk that hung out underneath the bridge, drugs and alcohol were never the problem. They were the solution, and that was the problem. So that's why I can identify and relate to the program. But like I was saying, leave a comment if you want, or if you're struggling, or if you have any questions, and I'll be there for you, answer them for you. I sponsor men. I've been in the program for 7.5 years, so been through a thing or two. And with that being said, I love you all, and if you made it this far, thank you for the love and support, and don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, peace.